Hi, today I'm going to paint the seaside cityscape during sunset. Hi, I'm Bipin. Follow me on my journey from a piece of paper to an awesome piece of art. Let me familiarize you with the materials that I am using today. The paper that I am using today is Brushtro 300 GSM cold press paper. And the brushes that I am using today are number 24 flat brush, number 24 round brush, number 2 fan brush, number 2 black mauve brush, number 2 yellow mauve brush, and number 1 fine detail brush. The colors that I am using today are cobalt blue, French ultramarine, Prussian blue, sap green, crimson, Payne's grey, and gamboge hue. Now that the sketch is ready, I am starting off by wetting the paper with clean water. I am using number 24 flat brush for this purpose. Next I am applying a warmer shade of green with mostly sap green and substantial amount of water. I am using my number 24 round brush for this job. Next I am applying a light shade of blue comprising mostly of cobalt blue. Now turn the paper upside down for the watercolors to do the magic on its own. The colors will merge and bleed. Now the focus shifts to other part of the painting, the sea. I pre-wet the paper using number 24 flat brush. Using the same brush, I apply sap green as a reflection of the sky. Next I am applying purple as a reflection of the building. Purple is obtained by mixing cobalt blue and crimson. The proportion of the blue and red are changed every now and then to get a different hue of purple. Another wash of blue to make the sky more vibrant. Now let's make some buildings. They are created with unconventional brush strokes by holding the brush horizontally. The building on the left side will be relatively darker as the sun is supposed to be behind it, hence sun cast more darker shadows on it. Now let's shift our focus to finial on the dome of the building. I am using number 2 black mauve brush for creating it. I am drawing some lines on the central building to create an impression of the floors of the building. Now using the other number 2 mop brush, which I call as the number 2 yellow mop brush, I am using it to create the windows and panes of the building. Painting is essentially a make-believe. Here I am not going into the details of the architecture, just using dry brush strokes to create an impression of the details in a subtle way. Now let's create a tree with orange leaves. The idea is to warm up the painting a bit more. Now I am using number 2 fan brush to create some trees on the rightmost end. Again wetting the paper to add more details to the reflection on the sea. I am using wet on wet technique to create the reflections on the sea. Here I am using number 2 flat brush to wipe the paint down so as to add more realism to the reflection. Somehow that highlight on the central building is gaining attention way more than it was intended, so I want to do away with it. Being at the center of the painting, the central building and its cause must have more structures. Definitely it will intrigue the viewers. I have to occasionally wet the paper as it's peak summer time here in this part of India, so paper is drying relatively faster. Now I am resorting to the technique of lifting, wherein a brush dipped in clean fresh water is gently caressed over paper to create highlights on water. Now the focus shifts to the right building. I am using number 2 yellow mop brush to create windows. Number 1 fine detail brush is used to add lines and other details of the building. Let's draw a boat near the leftmost building. Now a series of horizontal lines using number 2 black mop brush to make the sea waves more persistent. As we are on the concluding part of the painting demonstration, let's add some details on the left building. In a subtle way, I am adding more details on the boat. Let's tie the boat to the coast using a rope so that it won't drift away. We have reached the fag end of the demo. What remains is adding few details here and there. I hope you had a great time watching me play with colors. I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to like my video. Leave a comment or two about my painting. Of course, it will help me to know what you think about my painting. I will be back soon with the next painting. Hope to see you then. It's me, Bipin, signing off.